We have a new episode of Ask Me Anything series. I actually answered all these questions already, but to make it easier for people to not read through the comments, we're gonna have a video to just go through some of the most recent comments in the last 2 weeks or so. But since I've answered them already, in this video we're actually gonna feature two of my colleagues, Dennis and Corrinne, who will do their introductions in a second, and they are gonna answer the questions for us.
I'm Corrinne Jean Thomas, and I am a medication pharmacy informaticist, and I went to University of Michigan for my pharmacy school, did my PGY, and did my PGY too in pharmacy informatics at Michigan as well. Go Blue.
That was a little complicated. My name is Dennis Lim. I'm an informatics pharmacist. This whole medication management thing is over the top of my head. But I did my College of Pharmacy at University of Florida, PGY1 at Indiana University Health, and PGY2 in informatics at the Ohio State University's Wexner Medical Center. Go Bucks.
Rivalries. Okay, so we're going to jump right into the questions. These are meant to be really quick. You guys don't have to elaborate that much. Anyways, we're just start with the first question. So someone asked us, I am a P2, soon to be a P3. Recently changed my mind and want to do residency. Wasn't involved in any clubs and didn't network properly. Is it too late to think about residency since I'm in a 3-year program? What advice do you have for me? I want to apply for residencies and I'm kind of clueless.
Yeah, so 3-year program would probably put them right at the either middle or the end of rotations.
That's what I was wondering.
So
yeah.
At this point, if you haven't been to mid-year, if it's coming up or if it's already passed, it becomes kind of a different territory. Certainly if it's already passed, this will be a very difficult time for you to get into residency considering all the match has already occurred. Now, if your mid-year is coming up, as in this year, 2018, I think you have some options there. Definitely focus on why you want to do a residency, certainly what part of your P3-year clinical rotations really made you interested in residency. So you have things to speak to and speak about when you're going on these residency interviews and talking to residency program directors.
Yeah, and then depending on how the 3-year program is structured, if you still have an opportunity, you haven't picked all of your rotations yet for that last year, see if there are any informatics rotations that are available for you to choose as an elective, because that definitely helps with the experience and the conversation when you are going to mid-year as well as doing any interviews.
Yeah, definitely if this is in your upcoming 2018 year, mid-year clinical meeting, it is not too late to get started with your interest in residency, but definitely refocus your rotations if possible, if you haven't already, to emphasize why you want to do residency, especially if you want to do something in informatics.
Next one has a lot of questions here, so this one's kind of loaded.
Okay.
Trying to be brief. So this one's actually about informatics. So the question goes, this person noticed an opening for a clinical informatics pharmacist with no experience needed. Full-time salary range is $49,000 to $75,000, pretty low. I think they recently extended up to $82,000 possibly, but even that is compared to a pharmacy salary is quite a cut. I wouldn't mind if that is only for 1 year and after you become certified, maybe go back up to a normal pharmacy salary range. So is that what they normally do? That's the first question. Do they, go back to a normal pharmacy salary? That's the first question. Another question is, do you think if I do it and become Epic certified in that year, I will get a huge bump up? That's the second question. And I guess I could always apply elsewhere once I'm certified if the salary doesn't change much. So I guess 2 questions there. The first one is, do they normally bump up your salary after you get hired on? And then the second question is, do you think you would get a huge bump up after you get Epic certified?
With the first question, do they normally bump it up after you've been there for a year and you have more experience? There's definitely will be raises. That's normal for any position, but really if you're going to apply and you're going to interview for this position, that's when the negotiation for any significant change, because that is a pretty large range from the lower to the upper end. So negotiations before you accept the job is where you're going to probably see the biggest jump in salary versus after you've been there for a year. It's not so much of a trial experience, or let's see how well you do for 6 months and then we'll take you on full time. Doesn't sound like it's that type of position. So
Yeah, I would agree. I think there's definitely going to be opportunities in your future, whether it's with that organization or with another organization. If you were to get certified in Epic, I think there's no shortage of people. There's no abundance of people out there that have a ton of extensive Epic experience, but the salary range that differs, I think, regionally by your state and local differences. But I see that as a relatively low salary. So I'm wondering if that position is almost a posting for a pharmacy technician rather than a pharmacist. It's good to clarify that because you may be able to apply for that position as a pharmacist and get your pharmacist salary. Because frankly, at $40,000, that's not really a reasonable salary for any pharmacist out there. But organizations do differ in terms of what they're pursuing. Sometimes they're pursuing a pharmacy informatics person, so it could be a pharmacist, it could be it could be a pharmacy technician, or it could be a pharmacy person altogether. And then sometimes institutions pursue specifically a pharmacist informaticist, and then your salary range is obviously going to be very different. But I would say consider what that posting is actually asking, rather than accepting the salary in which it's posted.
yeah, looking at the details of the job description, because the titles themselves can also be very misleading. It's what are the details, what are they asking, what are the expectations for what your day-to-day is going to be. That's a really good point though, making sure that it's a pharmacist that they're looking for, because I've definitely seen, and I've looked at back when I was looking at jobs, different ones where once you read the actual details and the bullets, you realize this isn't specifically for pharmacists. For the second part of the question about Epic certification and whether or not you see a pay increase after that, I haven't seen anything like that. Maybe there is something out there. I don't think that's the norm, and at least that's not my experience.
Yeah, definitely within an organization, I don't think you'll see a bump in salary with Epic certification. Oftentimes it's your organization paying for your certification, so they're very hesitant, I think, to also give you additional salary on top of paying for your certification. I think where you see the bumps in salaries are associated with the degree and the time in which you're experienced in Epic. Not just certification, but the things you've done in terms of previous go-lives, previous projects, previous accomplishments.
Or if, say, you were getting an additional certification, but that was also, typically that's going to be with you getting additional job details and what your work is going to be. It's not so much the certification itself, because there's travel time, there's hotel, there's the classes, you're away from work, so it is quite a bit that usually your organization is going to cover for you to get that certification.
Okay.
Good question.
That's a very good question. Those are good answers too. So the next one is a comment. I don't know if you guys saw this. This comment is from our good colleague Jordan, and Jordan says on the video for the Epic certifications, he says, "Super informative!" Epic certifications are cool! Thanks, Brian. And then he ends it with not one, not two, but 3 emojis for a star or a sparkle. One of those two. How would you guys react to that comment?
Spear fingers.
Jazz hands.
Jazz hands. No, this is jazz hands. This is spirit fingers.
Okay.
There's a difference.
Okay. Yeah, no, Jordan's incredibly supportive. We love him, so he's fantastic.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to the next question. This one's kind of very, very broad question. I don't know how deep you guys want to get into it, but the question is, do you have an idea why pharmacy around the world nowadays seems to be saturated? And what is the difference between pharmacy in the past and now? Try to be brief.
Oh, this
That
could go
is-
on for hours.
Try to be brief.
It is, you know, and I don't know if Corrinne would agree with me, but I think number one issue is really the amount of pharmacy schools out there and the differing level of, I would say, accreditation statuses amongst them. And, you know, some of them are just getting accredited, so they'll have their first class coming out, and, you know, you don't know the quality of that school versus other schools that have been around for a long time, and they have a general kind of sense of quality about them. And so I think it's hard for employers to evaluate the candidates coming out of school sometimes, especially if you don't have kind of extensive residency experience, you just have your rotations on your CV. So I think that in itself contributes not only just to the amount of students that are out there applying for jobs, but also to, I think, the salaries of pharmacists kind of across the nation and I would say maybe across the world. I'm not really sure about that, but definitely across the U.S.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can't speak towards the entire globe for what different pharmacy programs are in different countries. I know it's always an interesting topic and could be almost a video in and of itself, but at least within the United States, we all experienced and saw it where there were a bunch of new schools that were opening right around the time when we were also applying for pharmacy school, as well as all through that whole process. And then I know doing residency interviews and doing the interviews for potential residents, seeing some different programs that I had never heard of, and I wasn't aware that there were brand new schools. So there are a lot of schools, which means a lot more students. Some of those schools are very large with their student population. So there's definitely a huge flux and a huge increase in the number of candidates. So that's why I think, at least here in the United States, there is more competition.
And I think that's why these days you see a lot of schools pushing residency. It's just another way of differentiating. You know, if you, not to go too long into this, but you know, at some point there was a difference between B Pharms, you know, bachelors of pharmacy, versus now PharmDs, and now we're kind of into that next step where now you have PharmD graduates, but then now you have residency trained PharmD graduates that kind of differentiate the different people because of the number of students that are coming out of pharmacy schools today. And so I think that problem, if it continues, will only get worse in terms of what you need to do to differentiate yourself. And so now you're looking at second-year residencies that you might have not needed before to really work at certain institutions. And, you know, they're talking about, you know, third-year residencies. And so it just never ends.
Very true, very true. But the way, I guess, to answer it, so yes, it is definitely a very competitive field versus looking back 10 years, 15 years, very different view. And so differentiating yourself, getting involved with both pharmacy-related, healthcare-related, computer science, or any other interests to make you a more unique and interesting candidate. If you have any additional questions, leave them in the comments below.
Until next time.
Okay, that's it.
It's okay, I got that in video.
Bloopers. Every time.
Oh my goodness. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in and watching the video. If you like the content, definitely hit the ImproRx button over to your left to subscribe, and definitely check out more videos over here to your right. Now, as always, if you have questions, comments, and even better, suggestions for future videos, definitely let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, until next time, guys.